Hey guys, I'm your host, Calvin Timms. Welcome back to another episode of Dynasty After Dark. You can find us over on Twitter at TDC_Calvin and at Dynasty_Dale. I'm back with my co-host Dale here today, and we're going to be talking about our Dynasty running back rankings. So last week we put out our quarterback rankings. We're going to be going through all the positions up and to the NFL draft at the end of this month. Happy Easter for everybody out there. You know, it's Easter Sunday, so a nice little day with the family today. Dale, how you feeling? Have a good day?
Yeah, I had a very good day. I am not ready to go back to work tomorrow, so
I know it was a
can't
long
wait.
weekend. Oh my gosh.
Yes, it definitely was.
Very,
Absolutely.
very long. Didn't really get to relax on Easter weekend, but such is the life when you have two small kids, right?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, and then last week we also put out our mock draft for one quarterback league, not superflex, one quarterback going to superflex, 10 team.
Mhm.
So go check that out as well. You can kind of see our thoughts with real world examples on these players, on how you should be drafting them and thinking about them for specific team needs. So yeah, go check those episodes out as well. But yeah, I'm excited to drop our top 6 Dynasty running back rankings today. Tomorrow we'll be back with 7 through 12, but it's kind of a whole new world, it feels like, because a lot of the running backs are turning over. We talked about this a little bit
Mhm.
last year. You know, there's a lot of older running backs out there, and they're all starting to get replaced, and you've got the new wave of guys, and you can see that in both of our rankings pretty heavily. So, yeah, pretty exciting.
I agree with that. Like, it's kind of sad to see some of the running backs that we kind of like grew up with a little bit, and kind of got the coming of age,
Yeah.
running backs, and now they're old, busted, or arrested.
Right. Yep. It's kind of, yeah,
It's
if you
definitely
joined,
interesting.
depending on when you joined fantasy, I guess, but guys like
Yeah.
Dalvin Cook who have been around. I think Dalvin was drafted my first rookie draft, so he's been
Yeah.
around a while. So seeing him fall off, he's not in our top 12s, either one of us, and it's just like, man, the changing of the guard is finally here. It's probably a
Absolutely.
good thing though, to be honest, because it feels like it's
Yeah.
been so stagnant at the top forever, but yeah, it's where it comes in with a little bit of risk, right? And we'll jump into it
Absolutely.
with a couple of our guys here. So that said, we're going to jump over to our our top 6 guys. And, I'm going to be starting with a guy here who is my number one guy, and it's going to be Jonathan Taylor. So Jonathan Taylor, very good running back, and yeah, he's still going to be my number one. I cannot move off of him just because he had an injury last year. You look at the games that he actually played, and this is on a dumpster fire team. He was still really good for fantasy football. And I just don't think that with Shane Steichen coming in to be the new head coach, calling the plays, I mean, he was calling all the plays for Philadelphia for the last year and a half when everybody was in love with, Jalen Hurts and that rushing offense over there. Jonathan Taylor is much better than Miles Sanders and
Hmm.
Kenny Gainwell and,
Absolutely.
Boston Scott and all those guys combined. So JT is still the number one guy. I think this offense is going to be rolling. I think there was a little bit to it as well that the Colts pulled Jonathan Taylor at the end of last year not to risk re-injury with him as well. In a wasted second half of the year. Why play him out there? So, he's a stud. Why risk getting him injured again? So everyone's saying, "Oh, well, he didn't really come back at the end of the year." I think that was intentional. Their team sucked. It was terrible. Why throw him out there? So Jonathan Taylor, I still think is the best running back in football, but I know you have a different guy, number one. Talk about JT real quick and where you have him ranked.
Yes. I love Jonathan Taylor. I think he's very excellent. I'm a little worried about the Indy offense, is why I have him ranked number 2 in my rankings. Um, I would feel a little bit better if he had a better vision at quarterback and a better vision, maybe even next year. I'll probably feel more comfortable having him potentially at the top spot. honestly, but I really feel it's just because of all the unknowns that we have with Seichin in his offense, and if he's going to be a competent head coach slash offensive coordinator slash whatever he did in Philly, see how that translates over to Indy and their offense and the crazy Jim Irsay and their GM.
Right. Right. Yeah,
So
it's make or break year, it feels like. But if you're going
absolutely,
with a rookie quarterback, but I mean, man, can you imagine? I still think they're going to get Lamar. I really, really
I
do. And
I would
Lamar
feel a
and
lot different
JT,
if Lamar's there. It's going to be electric,
I know,
electric,
man. Like JT is gonna
100%.
Lamar might vulture a few touchdowns from him, but
Mm-hmm.
dude, I am not worried whatsoever about.
0%.
Yeah, yeah, he's still so good. He might have a few less passes though, which could hurt him a little bit, but
Yeah,
I think the yardage will more than make up for that.
no, I agree. So with my number one guy,
So
I
real
do
quick,
have,
where did you have
yeah,
JT
yeah,
ranked?
um, I had him, I had him ranked number two.
Okay, so you
So
have a different number one.
yes, I do have a different one. I do love Jonathan Taylor. I think he is the best non-rookie in Dynasty right now, based on the running back side. So with that, I do have the Bijan Robinson at number one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think a lot of it goes to his hype. I know we have not seen him play a snap in the NFL,
Mm-hmm.
and some people are scared about that, which I fully, wholeheartedly understand. I'm a little bit off rookie sometimes, but
Sure.
I'm just going head over heels in rookies in my rankings. I'm trying to have these bold takes a
Right.
little bit before everybody else does.
Sure.
I think Bijan is going to be legit. I feel he's going to have. I feel he's been the most hyped running back since Saquon Barkley,
Mm-hmm.
and I really feel his game is very similar. It's a Saquon, like he's pretty shifty. He has a pass catching ability, and I think he has all the tools we like to see in a running back.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel if he could be successful for 5 to 6 years, that is an A+ pick in fantasy. That's gonna be your 101 for the next couple years.
Sure.
Startup drafts and redrafts
Yeah, in
and every draft
non super
possible.
flex, right? But
Yes, yes, absolutely,
yep, I'm with you.
absolutely. So yeah, I'm very excited. I'm very very excited about Bijan and what he's going to do.
Now, most people would probably agree with you. I have seen him going off
Hmm.
the board as the
Yep.
Dynasty 101 for running backs, but yeah, it's for me. He's my number four guy, and
Hmm.
I have him a
Like it.
slight
Like
tier
it.
behind the next guys.
Yeah.
And the I guess I'll talk about him really quickly here, so we're not overlapping. And just FYI, so we did not plan this. Dale gave me his
Nope.
top six guys. Well, his top 12 right before the podcast started, and we have the exact same top six, just in a different
Hmm.
order. So we'll talk about these guys all together, I guess. But Bijan Robinson for me is number four. And he's a slight tier breakdown between him and my top three guys who we'll talk about. But the biggest thing is you haven't seen him in the NFL yet. And I get it, like the hype is real. He's a very, very good player. I'm not denying that in any way, shape, or form by putting him here at four. The problem is we've just seen a lot of these guys come to the NFL and they're not as good in the NFL as they are in college. It's just such a different game in the NFL in terms of competition level. And, I do believe he's going to be drafted very highly in this upcoming draft. I think he's going to be a top 15 pick. Where exactly, I don't know. And to who, I can't tell you. Not till the end of this month. But, if he gets traded for the Cowboys, they trade up to get him, or, the Eagles take him at 10, whatever it might be. I think that he's going to go somewhere where they're going to utilize him as a workhorse. The problem is, there's the risk of injury when you're you're not playing, you're not used to playing against the level of competition. We've seen it a lot from high end running backs the last couple of years. Breece Hall, Javonte Williams, a lot of these guys come in and they just get injured in year one and they don't get to live up to that hype. Or, like Saquon, he came in, he lived up to it, but then he got injured the next year. And I'm not betting on an injury. That's not why I have him at four. The problem is it's just too many unknowns. You don't know the
Right.
team. You don't know the situation. You don't know how he's going to produce at the NFL level. Everyone else in my top 12, we've seen on an NFL field, and we know that they're studs. I believe Bijan Robinson is a stud, and very easily could he vault up to my 102 next year, right? Probably right behind Jonathan Taylor or competing with Jonathan Taylor. But I just cannot put him there yet. I do believe he has that potential, but in reality, I don't know if he's necessarily going to help you win your league this year. I think he's going to do very, very well for your league this year, but this year alone, if you can't trust him this year, there's just too many unknowns at this point in time. But like you said, the potential is there, the hype is there, and I wanted to put him highly. I just couldn't, jump some of my other guys there. So.
Yeah, no, I 100% understand that. I would normally have that take, but I'm trying to be
He's
bold this
really
year,
good, man.
and
It's
I know
hard for
he's
me to
really
be.
good, and it's really hard in Dynasty, especially, to
Oh
not be
yeah,
excited
oh
about
yeah,
a running back because they are few and far.
oh I know. And that's the problem with my ranking of Bijan at 4, right? I'm trying to be level-headed about it, and there's no world
It
where you're
is
going to get him
tough.
at
It
4.
is tough. No,
He's going to be
exactly.
the
No,
101 or the 102 in pretty much every single league for any dynasty
exactly.
startup. So, good luck trying to get him that late, but if you can get him at 4, I think that's perfect value for him. You
Oh,
probably have to
100%.
take him 1 or 2, and that's where I'm a little hesitant because my number 2 and number 3, we'll just drop these guys really quickly. I have CMC, Christian McCaffrey at number 2, and I have Saquon Barkley at number 3. Now, you talked about Saquon already being compared to Bijan. I like Saquon Barkley. We finally saw him healthy this last year, and we didn't have any stats to pull up for Bijan because he has nothing in the NFL. But here's last year for Saquon Barkley. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're not, make sure you go and watch on YouTube. Come on, guys. What are we doing here? I got the YouTube channels, but, this podcast is also available on Spotify, Apple. If you're just driving and listening to us talk, we'll try and make sure you're following along that way. But, yeah, if you can, while you're there, also just leave a like, comment, subscription, review, anything to help out with the podcast. We're just trying to grow all off season, so thank you guys for that. But yeah, Saquon Barkley last year, we saw the resurgence with Brian Daboll coming into the Giants, the other New York team. Man, it's been a long Sunday. My brain is like half scrambled. I'm not going to lie.
It's fried. I get it.
But you can see his game logs here, and he was just so good. He was their entire offense, and I don't think they're going to change that too much. OBJ just got signed to the Ravens a little bit ago, so he's not coming back to New York. They might trade for a Brandon Ayuk or a Jerry Jeudy or one of these guys, but that's their first round pick. They don't have a ton of draft capital, and they have other holes on this roster that they can't just invest all of it in the wide receivers. They brought back a lot of wide receivers as well, Shepard and some of the other guys there. So I just don't think they're going to heavily invest in the wide receiver. They're going to try and get a alpha dog guy there, but Saquon Barkley is still going to be a rock-solid guy, and I think he's going to be able to help you for multiple years. Yes, he's 26 years old, but he was so banged up early in his career, he basically has missed 2 years of his first 5 due to injury, and, it's fluke injuries, like it's the ACL. It's not a recurring injury for most guys out there. He had the high ankle sprain a couple of times, and it's just like unfortunate injuries, and you saw what he's able to do when he finally came back fully healthy. So Saquon Barkley is my number 3, and Christian McCaffrey, gosh, my brain is fried, man, is my number 2 guy here, and it's solely due to what we saw at the end of last year with Kyle Shanahan. Like, it was just nuts. That production in Kyle Shanahan's offense is insane. Like, he should be the redraft 101. Like, honest to God, he should be the redraft 101.
Probably will be.
I don't think he will be. I think it'll be a JT or a Bijan, for example, due to the hype. But, I mean, the guy was just so dang good with San Francisco. The only problem is he's also 26. I have the edge to him over Saquon Barkley because he's got the long contract with the Niners, but man, the dude is just so good. And similar to Saquon Barkley, he's missed about 2 years now due to injury, and it's fluke injuries. It's like a hamstring one year. I forget the other injury he had. It wasn't the hamstring both years, but he was finally able to get back and play every game last year, back to a massive snap percentage share, and he looked really good. And, Christian McCaffrey is still a stud, and I think he's being devalued a lot in Dynasty right now. So what are your thoughts on those two guys?
I 100% agree with CMC and him being devalued. I think the biggest thing he has against him is some of the injuries and his age.
Sure.
Um, it's for him, like, he's been in the league 6 years. He's been injured a couple times. Like, he's had down seasons the past couple years. Like,
Hmm.
other than this past season, like, he only played in 3 games in 2020, 7 games in 21. And that's a fairly big concern. But with Kyle Shanahan, you know, being the OC is huge for him. I feel in Carolina he was the only guy that was relevant. Honestly,
Hmm.
and it was really tough to see him kind of do what he did, because he was everything for a
I
very
know.
long time.
I know, it was crazy.
So
He got
yeah,
traded in
so
what week 13 was it? Or
wasn't it, I think was like week 8 or something.
was it earlier?
Because
Okay.
yeah, or
Man,
yeah, it was fairly early.
he was just so dang good. It was crazy. But, you look at I have his player card pulled up on Sleeper, and, his rookie season RB10, second year RB2, RB1, injury season, his per game numbers in those 2 years were absolutely nuts when he did play in those games. But,
Agreed.
he was the 53, 38, and then back to RB2. So if he can stay healthy, man, he's just so good. And that's why he's my number 2 guy. I do think you're going to be able to get like 2-3 years out of Christian McCaffrey still.
Mhm.
That's the length of his contract anyway, and he's going to be with
Yep.
Kyle Shanahan pretty much the entire time. So he's going to be rock solid in terms of usage. They were milking amazing seasons out of Raheem Mostert at age 28, so
Mm-hmm.
it's not like they can't use an older running back. And then Saquon Barkley, like I said, I just believe Saquon's back finally. And again, all three of these guys, the reason I have them above a Bijan Robinson is because I just think that they are proven quantities at this point. When they're
Right.
healthy, they're really good for fantasy football. So, Bijan could definitely surpass him. I'm not saying that he doesn't have that potential. He definitely does. But I just can't rank him because these guys are studs, man. Like, he has to live up to the hype to pass these guys up. So, doesn't mean he can't do it, but I have to temper expectations just a tiny bit there. So, give me your thoughts, your rankings on CMC and McCaffrey
Okay,
here,
yeah. Yeah, it's for
or
CM it's yeah, yeah, no,
Barkley.
you're good. Yeah, and for Barkley. It's for CMC, I have him ranked 4.
Okay.
I think that's the biggest thing is the age factor, honestly. I
Mm-hmm.
feel that's the only thing holding him back from. I mean, I almost thought about putting him number 1, really.
Man, he's so
It's
good.
because I love him so much. I feel he does so many different things than a lot of these guys that we're going to talk about do.
Mm-hmm.
He's just really good at everything.
Yep.
So, I do agree with that with Barkley, but he has had some injury seasons along with CMC, and he's getting to the point where he's he's getting closer to that running back wall that we typically um and that's what really worries me a little bit about Barkley. And you know, I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens when there's more weapons in New York compared to very little. So I think that's going to be an interesting little facet that we are going to have to watch. But I still think he's probably going to be a top 5 for the next year, probably 2 or 3 years for
Mm-hmm.
Barkley, honestly. So I don't think you would. I don't think you would be wrong with going with him. I do have him ranked 6th, but I have a couple guys that are ranked ahead of these guys, these of CMC and Barkley that are younger,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just really what I see is the youth factor in these guys.
All right, so yeah, and the one thing too, you said additional competition for Saquon, and actually, I almost feel like more threats in this offense actually help Saquon Barkley because you go back to last season at the end of the year, he was their entire offense. It was him and Daniel Jones just doing
Yeah.
everything on the ground. Daniel Jones was not good by any stretch of the imagination, but man, when everybody knew that they didn't really have to care about the tight ends or the receivers for this team, and it's just, I mean, they've already brought in Darren Waller. I actually, forgot about that until just this moment, but
Right.
they go and get a Brandon Ayuk, a Jerry Jeudy. This team is looking good, man. And I don't think that they're going to
Absolutely.
cannibalize each other that much. I think they want to get to the point where they can put more on Daniel Jones to throw the ball around a little bit more. And when your second best receiver is Richie James, it's probably not the
It's
the
tough. It's
best,
tough.
right? Like
Yes.
Darius Slayton was
Extremely
their
tough.
number one wide receiver last year, which, come on, man. Like, it's just rough. So I actually don't think more weapons is going to hurt Saquon. I think that it's going to open him up a little bit more, that they can get him utilized a little bit more with the underneath passes, or they can. He might see a little bit of a decrease in the targets, but I think his yardage is going to go up exponentially. He's just so good. But if he's getting, if everybody's kind of just covering him, he's got a spy on him the entire time. It's hard
Right.
for him to
It
really
does make it
break it
easier to
out.
stop him.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. You can't break
I know.
a massive play every single play. So, yeah, I think a little bit more competition is going to help Saquon Barkley more than hurt him. But no, I do
Yeah.
understand there's a little bit of trepidation there. We've been burned by him a couple years in a row.
Yep.
So, vaulting him back up there to the top, it is a little tough. So, no, I definitely get that. Let's hear your number 3 and number 5 guy, because they are my 5 and 6, because we still have
Yes.
the same top 6 here. So who do you have at 3?
All right. So at 3, I have the formerly injured Brees Hall. I really love what Brees Hall showed in the Jets offense last year. He was electric. He was fantastic. He was catching passes from horrible Zach Wilson. He was running every which way. And unfortunately, he tore his ACL in week 7.
Mm-hmm.
So he should be on track to be back probably week 1. I don't believe it was a similar injury to J.K. Dobbins,
Mm-mm.
thankfully.
Yeah, it was just the
So
ACL, which was lucky.
yeah, it was just the ACL. So I believe he's going to be on track, and he's going to be fine for probably he's probably going to have a little bit slower start this year because of the
Mm-hmm.
injury, in my opinion. But I think with what the Jets are projected to have, and hopefully Aaron Rodgers eventually, but time will tell on that one.
Funny thing
I I
about
I
that.
I,
Funny thing about
I
that, I
sh-
just saw a video of Joe Douglas at a
Hmm?
presser with donors or something like that. Some higher ups with the Jets, and basically he said to this whole audience of people, "Yeah, he's coming." So
Right, right.
everyone's
I sure
expecting.
hope so.
Yeah, they're just working on final trade compensation, and
Yeah,
it's probably money related and everything like that. So it's
yeah,
gonna
it always
happen.
is with that.
It's gonna happen for sure. So,
Yeah.
assuming that they have an Aaron Rodgers, does that change? Does that help Brees? Does that hurt Brees? Like compared to last year?
I think that's gonna help him honestly
Sure.
because I think he could be a very similar to what Aaron Jones did,
Okay.
and honestly with Aaron Jones has been very very sneaky in fantasy this the
Yeah.
past couple years.
Yep.
In getting these RB1 finishes, like I think he finished 11th. Well, in he finished ninth in PPR leagues,
Yeah.
which
You
is
he was sneaky good.
insane.
Sneaky good.
Yeah, which is
Just boomer
insane to think
bust,
about.
right?
Yeah, it's very boomer bust. But I think Brees Hall is a better runner than Aaron Jones has ever been.
100. Yep.
Yeah,
100%.
I feel his vision's better. Like he just has a better feel for everything. So I'm very very excited about Brees Hall. I think he's going to be fantastic. But I do think it's going to be a little rough sledding in the beginning, the first few weeks. So like in your redraft leagues, don't give up on him quite yet. But in your dynasty drafts, I would definitely pick him up. Sooner than later. In my
Sure. Yeah, and I have Brees at 6. So here's a couple things I want to talk about with you really quickly. What are the thoughts? Because I have the game log pulled up here, and week 1, 10 points, 13, 15, 15, 28, 21, 13. Like, and that's the last week is the one he got injured, 20% of snaps. He was cooking before that, 4
Mhm.
for 72 and a touchdown before
Yep.
before he tore his ACL. But the thing is, right, Aaron Rodgers is going to come over here. They were running the ball pretty heavily with Zach Wilson. It took him a couple weeks to really ramp up to Breece Hall's usage. My biggest fears with Breece Hall, and I agree that he's a very talented guy,
Mhm.
but they opened him up to a larger workload, and he instantly got injured. Right, he had 3 weeks of double digit touches, except for 4 weeks, I guess, if you count the receptions in week number 3 there. But he only had 4 weeks of double digit touches, and then he got injured. So are they going to give him a full workhorse role again for this team? And then two, the second biggest concern is with Aaron Rodgers coming over, I don't know if they're going to want to run the ball as much anyway, right? And I think Michael Carter is someone that the Jets really like on this team. And you can say whatever you want about Michael Carter for fantasy football. It does not matter. They like this guy for the actual team, and he profiles as more of the third down scat back that is more of the Aaron Jones from Green Bay, and whereas Breece Hall is more of the A.J. Dillon. Much better. Don't get me wrong. I'm not comparing Breece Hall to A.J. Dillon. I think he's a
Right.
much better runner, like you mentioned, but I think that he can catch like Aaron Jones. I'm not debating that, but I just think that they see Michael Carter as more of the third down guy. So, if they're going to be passing the ball a lot more, which means less carries on the ground for Breece Hall, they're not going to increase his target usage because, one, he got injured with such a high carry count. And say what you will about that. I'm not arguing the analytics or anything of that. From a team perspective, they're going to look at it and say, hey, we up this guy's touches.
Mhm.
Maybe we don't do that as much, right? And you can argue that all you want. It doesn't matter. From a real life perspective, that's what they're going to look at it. These are real people. They're not going to just look at the stat sheet. Oh, well, if you give this guy 50 touches again, it's not going to matter long term. Yeah, I get that it averages out for most guys, but when you have the human being in front of you, it's going to change things, right? So if they're not going to give him as many touches, they're not going to put him in the more third down role, which is traditionally Michael Carter's job in this offense. You know, are we being too optimistic about a Breece Hall here?
I see that, but I'm still not worried.
Okay.
I see him. I see in his game log that like he didn't break 50% snap percentage, and I feel with him if he stays in that 60% range, he's gonna be
Mm-hmm.
just fine. He's gonna be just fine. I,
Sure.
I feel he's gonna be a 15 to 20 pointer every week, pretty easy, and and that's really what you want in the running back position.
Sure.
Honestly, like if you can get that consistency every week, that's something that you're gonna want and have. And I really think that I understand what you're saying, but I still think he's gonna outshine Michael Carter. I think Michael Carter is a back, but
He's good. He's
you
fine.
know
He's fine.
he's okay. He's okay, but I think I think when it comes down to it, that Brees Hall is the guy, and that's what they drafted him to be, and that's what they're going to try to make him.
Yeah, we'll see.
So
We will see. I
so
mean,
I'm
yeah,
yeah,
you trade up for a running back in round two. It's a pretty heavy investment, even though it's round two. I
it
understand that,
is
but yeah, that
100%.
I'm a little nervous. Like of all these guys in the top six, him and Saquon are the two that I'd be wanting to sell at a premium right now because I think you could get
Mhm.
a premium on these two guys. Brees Hall is injured right now. He had an ACL
Yeah,
tear and he's still going. But you clearly have him as a top three guy. And I just don't know if he's ever going to return that. There's a lot of good running backs coming out from college over the next couple years. So, you got Bijan up there. And for me, he's not even top four. But yeah, for me, I'd be selling Brees Hall at a premium. I think that you could
yeah.
get a very good haul. Like if you got a Zach Charbonnet or a Jameer Gibbs plus a Drake London, for example, like to me, that's a smash. But,
Mhm.
it's up to you. I don't know. Am I crazy with that?
No, no, it's not crazy. Like I understand that, and if someone offers you a haul for Brees Hall, I would definitely take it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if it's in picks, I would try to get a very high pick this year's draft. I
Sure.
wouldn't try to get anything, past like 5 or 6, plus
Sure.
something.
Sure.
So
Yes.
yeah, is the biggest thing just to be aware of. Like
Right.
you want to make sure that you get good value for him, and I feel I feel you really could.
Yeah, like the 1.6, 1.7, and the 1.10, you get there. There you go. You get Zach Charbonnet, and you get JSN or someone like that.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
sign me up.
100%,
Sign me
100%.
up. But
Yep, yep,
no, that's just a few thoughts there. It's kind of funny. We have Saquon Barkley and Brees just absolutely switched in our rankings,
yeah,
which
yep,
just ironic. Again, the
yep.
the red flags for me around Brees are just I think that Saquon's a little bit more locked and loaded, but I do
It's a
understand the
safer option. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. No,
And Brees is
I
21 though.
fully
I
understand.
so I get the upside long term.
Yeah.
Definitely understand that for sure. So, all right, now last guy we both have at 5 is going to be Kenneth Walker. Give me your breakdown of Kenneth Walker real quick.
Um, I love Kenneth Walker. I watched him quite a bit at Michigan State when he was in college, and he ran angry and ran over defense after defense after defense after defense.
Yeah,
Um,
he was good.
I mean, I will say in college that the only defense he didn't run all over was Ohio State's defense, and they they perennially have NFL.
Mm-hmm.
So I think with him being with Geno Smith and Pete Carroll, which that offense was a little bit more. It wasn't as run heavy. It didn't feel as run heavy. I should say
Agreed.
last year as in years past
Mm-hmm.
because they let Geno cook compared to them not letting Russ cook, which I
Yeah,
thought was
I
very.
know. I know.
It's highly ironic. But I think he's a very good pass catcher, which coming into the league, like didn't see him really as a pass catcher, but that's because he wasn't asked to do that in
Michigan
college.
doesn't do it. They just never throw
Michigan
to the running
State
back.
Michigan State doesn't.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
So
sorry.
yeah, so hey, it's all good, but that is a big difference.
I
So,
don't want to get killed here.
but
I'm sorry,
no,
Michigan fans. I apologize.
definitely not. So it's with that. I really like him, and I think he's going to be a sneaky value in some drafts because I just think with his age, he's 22.
Yeah.
Um and I understand how he finished last year like he finished 18th in PPR league,
Mm-hmm.
which which isn't bad for a rookie year. We're going off of. We've had years with Jonathan Taylor that we were spoiled with, say Barkley, CMC. The past 4 or 5 years that we've been really spoiled with these high end running backs that have come into the league and really uh, shown shown what they could do. So,
Right.
but I think overall that in the beginning of the year he played really it kind of was pretty
He didn't play
slow,
for
and
the
then
first month, really. I mean,
yeah, honestly, and then it's the last 2/3 of the year he really picked it up, and I would say he averaged probably about 15 points a week, averaged, which is fantastic. I think the targets could go up. Maybe I hope they go up a little bit, but it's hard knowing with what Gino's going to do and how he's going to project next year. I think
I
a
think
lot
he's
of teams
good,
were
man.
sur-
I
I
think
think he's good.
he's
I think he's
fixed.
good, but I think a lot of teams were surprised of what Gino did because of what they saw in um
New York.
in New York with the Jets and Giants, and
Yeah.
I just don't think he had good offensive play callers to really give him a chance. So so like I think Gino is going to help a lot with Kenneth Walker, and I think they help both of what their strengths are. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm I'm just really excited about Kenneth Walker. I think if he has a good year this year, that he's going to go in my rankings. So
Sure.
can't wait to see what he does this year.
Yeah, I think he's kind of, for me, I just don't really see much upward trajectory for him.
Yeah,
Like, I don't think he'll
yeah,
ever crack top three, unfortunately. Like, he's
fair,
really
fair.
good, but I just don't know, with Pete Carroll, he's just an old school guy, right? And
He
that's
is.
the one thing. But no, you look at Kenneth Walker last year, didn't play really for the first month at all, and then really started to cook in the middle of the season. Fell off a little bit at the end of the year, but everything kind of tracks. If you were following the injuries of the Seattle offensive line, they were fully healthy at the beginning of the year. Unfortunately, he didn't get to play with them until until week 5, really 4 and 5.
Right.
But right at I think it was around week 11 or 12, they right after the bye week, they lost a lot of their offensive linemen. I think they lost two offensive line starters from this team. And this was already a weak offensive line beforehand anyway, right? But they finally got the tackles, the first round pick and then the third round pick who were stepping up, but they kind of got figured out a little bit at the end of the year as well. Add in injury. And that's why the Seattle collapse was so heavy at the end of the year, right? They were killing it to start the year, and then, they just kind of fell off the face of the earth. And a lot of it had to do with the offensive line. There was so much pressure on Geno Smith and the running game and everything. So the fact that they were still able to produce good fantasy weeks at the end of the season for Kenneth Walker should tell you how good this guy is, right? I think that he's going to be a stud long term, but I just don't know I don't know how much higher he can go. I believe he's going to finish,
Right.
Probably around RB number 8, 7, 6, somewhere in that range. And with the youth factor added in there, bumps him up a little bit in my rankings. But yeah, I like Kenneth Walker a lot. I think he's going to be very stable in terms of value. For me, he's kind of like a younger Josh Jacobs, right? Where he's a very, very good player, highly drafted, and went to a good landing spot, not much competition, and was very good early on. He's just going to get a little bit better. I just don't know if we're going to see a massive leap forward from Kenneth Walker. It's possible. It is
Right.
definitely possible,
Yeah,
but
it is. It is.
I'm hedging a little bit against him there with the other talents that we know are elite, like a Bijan, for example, or a CMC or JT. Those kind of guys where they've already taken that leap forward. So for your fantasy squad, for the next couple of years at least, those guys are definitely going to be reigning supreme there. So that is our top 6. So really quickly, we'll go through it one more time. Number 1 for me was Jonathan Taylor, 2 CMC, Christian McCaffrey, 3 Saquon Barkley, 4 Bijan Robinson, 5 Kenneth Walker, and 6 Breece Hall. Dale, what was your top 6?
So I had Bijan at 1, Jonathan Taylor at 2, Brees Hall at 3, DMC at 4, Kenneth Walker the third at 5, and Saquon Barkley at 6.
All right. So any last thoughts on this top tier of the top 12 guys here?
We're all good.
All right. So thank you guys for joining us. Let us know your thoughts on our top 6. Again, we had the exact same, just in a different order. So you can tell us who was right, who was wrong there, or somebody that we're missing out on completely that you think should be up there. There's a few names, man. When you get to rankings, it's always so hard. You have to be so subjective and splitting so many hairs to kind of break some of these guys up. But you can let us know in the comments down below or wherever you're listening to the podcast what you think of our top 6 here. Come back tomorrow. You'll get our 7 through 12 to finish out the RB number 1s for Dynasty football. Until then, you can follow us on Twitter at TDC_Calvin, at Dynasty_Dale. And thank you guys for joining us. Have a good night.